When I caught my husband cheating with his ex on our wedding anniversary, I filed a plea for him to come back to me. But all I received in return was a cold bank card and a humiliation I would never forget. That was the end. We divorced. He had assumed it was a game, a ploy to get his attention. But it wasn't until I walked away for real that he realized the truth. I was not the one who couldn't live without him. He was the one who couldn't bear to lose me. That afternoon, Edwin finally showed up at City Hall. I handed him the papers I'd signed. Once you sign, we can move on. He hesitated, then signed without a word. The clerk stamped the documents with a soft click. There's a 30-day cooling-off period before it's finalized, she said kindly. Can we skip that? I asked, biting back the impatience curling in my chest. I'm afraid not. It's mandatory. Edwin said nothing. He simply walked out. I signed my side of the consent form, caught up to him, and tried to speak. So, Mr. Stanley, see you. Before I could finish, he slammed his car door and drove off. The cold wind hit me, making my hair whip around my face. I laughed, half bitter, half broken. Then, fumbling for my phone, I called my best friend. Divorced. Come pick me up at the amusement park, I shouted, letting the adrenaline of fury and freedom ride through every coaster, every spinning ride. Afterward, we went shopping. I discarded every trace of Mrs. Stanley, my old clothes, my old identity. My hair was dyed golden and wavy, a small rebellion against the past. When I looked in the mirror, a confident stranger stared back. I smiled. Hello, Sharon, I whispered to my reflection. By evening, we headed to a restaurant. Elena went to chat with the chef while I waited for our table. But as I walked toward the private room, I froze. Edwin was there, and so was Tilda. Of course, during our marriage, I could barely catch a glimpse of him for weeks, yet fate had the cruelest sense of humor, thrusting him back in my path right after our divorce. I turned to leave, but Tilda's voice, saccharine and sharp, stopped me. The mess crest, she said, her tone teasing. You're here to see Edwin, right? Funny. I'd only asked him to stop by City Hall. Didn't realize it would lead to our divorce. She nudged Edwin, her smile sweet as poison. There's still a cooling-off period. Maybe you two can fix things. I cut in quickly. I didn't come for him. Pure coincidence. Edwin smirked, that infuriating, charming smirk he always wore when he thought he could play me. I stared at him, disbelief burning in my chest. Think whatever you want, I said and walked away. He looked startled that I didn't argue, didn't explain myself. But I was done. Let him drown in his own assumptions. Later, Elena dragged me to the largest bar in Rosario City. Neon lights flickered over dancers twisting and spinning. You want me to dance here? She asked, holding up a red dress. You used to dance circles around people. Show them, she added. I laughed and shook my head. Classical, I said, choosing something modest. The crowd murmured as I stepped onto the stage. Classical dance in a bar? Confusion painted their faces. But as the beat began, my body remembered every movement, every pirouette, every arc of my arms flowed with memory and grace. Cheers erupted. Well, is that a new performer? She's got skills, someone murmured. Edwin arrived with friends. One stiffened. That woman, she looks like your wife. Another scoffed. If she had talent, she would have used it to win him back long ago. Edwin's eyes lifted, indifferent. The figure on stage was graceful, yes, but in his mind, I was still the opportunist who had clawed her way into his life. He dismissed the thought and made a call. Is Sharon home? No, sir. She hasn't returned since this morning. Later, as Edwin and his friends sat in a private room, their conversation turned cutting. You should have just offered her money to make her leave, one sneered. Without what happened, she wouldn't have lasted, another added. Edwin sipped his drink silently, expression unreadable. Outside, Elena and I overheard everything. She clenched her fists, disbelief written on her face. How can you just stand there? I stopped her. We're already divorced. Let them say what they want. I've tried explaining myself my whole life. It's pointless. I had fought for family harmony, for dignity, for recognition. None of it mattered anymore. The next day, I went to Stanley Manor to collect my remaining belongings. I didn't want to step inside. I called a servant to bring them out. Just then, a car pulled up. Edwin stepped out, impatience clear in every line of his body. Have you had enough of this mess? I smirked, amused. Go in. Or wait, Mr. Stanley, seems like you're forgetting something. He frowned. We divorced yesterday, I reminded him.
His frown deepened.
You should take the exit, I added, making a spectacle like this. It's ridiculous. Before I could say more, a loud cheer erupted. A massive banner unfurled in front of me. Congratulations to Sharon for moving on and starting fresh. Alana had outdone herself. A tall, handsome man appeared, handing me a bouquet. Kneeling before me, he said softly, I can't promise the world, but I swear to cherish every moment with you. I'll stand by you, listen to you, and never let you feel alone. Edwin's face darkened. She's just making a scene, he muttered, turning and walking away. Inside the manor, servants whispered among themselves. Is she seeing someone else? One dared to ask. Edwin said nothing. His silence said it all. Later that night, a Stanley family servant called. Miss Sharon, you should come back. Mr. Stanley looks upset. Maybe you should smooth things over. I laughed. Didn't he tell you we're divorced? Silence followed. Then came the familiar clink of a delivery. A bank card. Edwin stared at the bank card on his desk, the same platinum card he'd thrown at me on our anniversary. I'd mailed it back with a simple note. I don't need your pity money. I never did. His assistant knocked softly. Sir, the quarterly report from the design department. Get out, Edwin said flatly. The assistant retreated quickly. Edwin picked up the card, turning it over in his fingers. He'd given me access to millions, thinking money would keep me satisfied, keep me quiet. But I'd barely touched it in 3 years. The transaction history showed only modest purchases, groceries, books, art supplies. Nothing like what other women in his circle spent. His phone buzzed. A message from his mother. I heard Sharon moved out. What happened? He didn't reply. Instead, he opened his photo gallery, scrolling past business meetings and social events until he found them. Candid shots from our early days. Me laughing at something he'd said. Me concentrating on a sketch pad in the garden. Me sleeping peacefully beside him before everything turned cold. He'd convinced himself I was like all the others who'd chased his wealth and status. But now, as he sat alone in his office, doubt crept in like frost. 3 weeks into the cooling-off period, I landed my first major commission, a series of classical dance performances for the Rosario City Arts Festival. The pay was modest, but the recognition meant everything. Elena squeezed my hand as we reviewed the contract. You're really doing this. Building your own life. I should have done it years ago. I admitted. I gave up my dreams to be Mrs. Stanley, thinking love would be enough. The studio I'd rented was small but filled with light. Mirrors lined one wall, and the hardwood floors gleamed. This was mine. Every pirouette, every extension, I was dancing for myself now. During a break, my phone rang. Unknown number. Sharon, it's Lydia Stanley. Edwin's mother. My former mother-in-law. Mrs. Stanley, I said carefully. I want to meet. There are things you should know about Edwin and Tilda. My first instinct was to refuse. But curiosity won. Café Lumiere. Tomorrow at 2. The next day, Lydia arrived impeccably dressed, her expression troubled. She ordered tea, then leaned forward. I never approved of how Edwin treated you. He was damaged long before you met. I listened, guarded. Tilda was his first love. When she left him to study abroad, he changed. Became cold, calculating. When you came along, I thought you might heal him. She paused. But he used you as a shield against feeling anything real. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because Tilda came back for his money, not his heart. And Edwin is too blind to see it. Lydia slid an envelope across the table. These are photos from last week. Tilda dining with her real boyfriend, a struggling artist she's been supporting with Edwin's gifts. I opened the envelope. The evidence was damning. Tilda, laughing intimately with another man, wearing the diamond bracelet Edwin had given her. I don't care anymore, I said, pushing the envelope back. Edwin made his choice. Lydia smiled sadly. You deserve better than my son. I just wanted you to know the truth. The cooling-off period ended on a Wednesday. I arrived at City Hall early, dressed in a crisp white suit, a color of new beginnings. Edwin was already there, looking haggard. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. You look terrible, I said neutrally. Didn't sleep well, he muttered. The clerk called us forward. Are you both certain you want to proceed with the divorce? Yes, I said immediately. Edwin hesitated. The pause stretched like broken glass. Mr. Stanley, the clerk prompted. He looked at me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time in years. Can we talk? Just 5 minutes. I checked my watch. I have a rehearsal at 3. Sharon, please. Something in his voice almost broke through my armor. Almost. You have 3 minutes. We stepped outside. The autumn wind scattered leaves around us. I made mistakes, Edwin began. I see that now. Congratulations on your revelation. Unfortunately, it's 3 years too late. I never meant to hurt you. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You didn't mean to hurt me? Edwin, you destroyed me. You made me feel worthless, invisible, like I was nothing more than an obligation. And when I finally found the strength to leave, you thought it was a game. It wasn't. I didn't think. That's the problem. You never thought about me, about what I needed, what I felt, who I was. I stepped closer. I was a trained dancer, Edwin. I had scholarships, opportunities. I gave all of it up because I loved you, and you repaid me by treating me like a gold digger. His face paled. I didn't know you'd given up. You never asked. My voice cracked. In 3 years, you never once asked about my dreams, my past, who I was before I became Mrs. Stanley. Silence fell between us. Edwin's hands clenched at his sides. I want to fix this, he said finally. There's nothing to fix. We're done. I turned toward the building. Your 3 minutes are up. Inside, I signed the final papers with a steady hand. Edwin signed too, but his signature looked shaken, uncertain. The divorce is now finalized, the clerk announced. I walked out into the sunlight, feeling lighter than I had in years. 2 weeks after the divorce, Edwin's world began to crumble. His assistant brought the morning news with trembling hands. Sir, you need to see this. The headline read, Tilda Morrison, heiress or con artist. The article detailed her scheme, using Edwin's wealth to fund her real boyfriend's art career while stringing along multiple wealthy men. Edwin's hands shook as he read. Every gift, every tender moment, all of it had been a lie. He called Tilda immediately. Is it true? Her silence confirmed everything. Edwin, I can explain. He hung up. That evening, he drove to Stanley Manor, wandering through rooms that suddenly felt cavernous. He found himself in what used to be my studio, a small room overlooking the garden that he'd barely noticed during our marriage. Inside were dozens of sketches, drawings of him, of the manor, of moments I'd captured in pencil and charcoal. Self-portraits showing a woman gradually fading, her smile becoming more forced with each passing month. The final drawings were abstract, broken chains, birds in flight, phoenixes rising from ash. A journal lay on the window seat. Against his better judgment, he opened it. Year 1. Edwin forgot our anniversary again. I made his favorite dinner anyway. He didn't come home. Year 2. I suggested we take a trip together. He said he was too busy. Then I saw photos of him at a resort with Tilda and his friends. I wasn't invited. Year 3. I can't remember the last time he looked at me like he loved me. I'm disappearing. Final entry. Today, I choose myself. I'm terrified and exhilarated. I don't know who Sharon is without Edwin, but I'm going to find out. Edwin sank to the floor, the journal clutched in his hands. He'd been so consumed by his own hurt over Tilda's first abandonment that he'd recreated that pain in me, never seeing what he was doing. His phone buzzed. A video link from an unknown number. It showed me on stage at the arts festival, dancing a piece called Metamorphosis. My movements told a story. A woman trapped, struggling, finally breaking free. The audience was mesmerized. The camera zoomed in on my face, and Edwin saw something that gutted him. Pure joy. I was radiant, whole, happy. Without him. The day of my final performance at the arts festival, Edwin showed up. I spotted him in the 3rd row, watching with an intensity that once would have thrilled me. Now it just made me sad. Sad for the marriage we could have had, sad for the man he might have been. After the performance, as I greeted admirers and signed programs, he approached. Elena moved to intercept, but I waved her off. You were extraordinary, Edwin said quietly. Thank you. I read your journal. I found your drawings. He swallowed hard. Sharon, I'm sorry. Those words aren't enough, but I don't know what else to say. There's nothing to say. We're done, Edwin. I know. I just needed you to know that I see it now. Everything I destroyed. Everything you were. His voice broke. I'll regret losing you for the rest of my life. For a moment, I felt the old pull, the instinct to comfort him, to make his pain disappear. But I'd spent 3 years sacrificing myself for his comfort. I hope you find happiness, I said genuinely. I hope you learn to see people before you lose them. And you, he asked. The man from before, is he? I smiled. That was Elena's cousin helping me make a point. But I am seeing someone. His name is Marcus. He's a choreographer. He sees me, Edwin. Really sees me. Edwin nodded, understanding passing between us. This was goodbye. The real goodbye. For what it's worth, he said, you were always enough. I was just too broken to appreciate you. Maybe, I replied. But I'm not here to fix broken men anymore. I'm here to build a life I love. I walked away, and this time, I didn't look back. 6 months later, the invitation arrived on thick cream paper with gold lettering. The Rosario City Ballet Company cordially invites you to the premiere of Phoenix, choreographed and performed by Sharon. Saturday, April 15th, 8 p.m. Elena helped me into my costume, deep crimson fading to gold at the edges, like flames given form. Nervous? She asked. Excited? I corrected, catching my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back was strong, confident, whole. I'd spent 6 months rebuilding myself, rediscovering my passion, creating art that mattered. Marcus squeezed my hand as I prepared to go on stage. You've got this. The curtain rose. The audience fell silent. And I danced. I danced for the girl who'd given up her dreams for love. I danced for the woman who'd felt invisible in her own marriage. I danced for every moment of pain, every tear, every heartbreak. And then I danced for the future, for possibility, for freedom, for the beautiful unknown. When the final note faded and I held my last pose, the theater erupted in applause. Roses rained onto the stage. I bowed, tears streaming down my face, tears of triumph. In the audience, in the back row where I couldn't see him, Edwin watched with tears in his own eyes. He'd come not to win me back. He knew that ship had sailed, but to witness what he'd almost destroyed. To see the phoenix he'd forced from the ashes. After the performance, reporters clustered around me. Ms. Lee, you disappeared from the dance world 3 years ago. What brought you back? I smiled, thinking of all the easy lies I could tell. Instead, I chose truth. I lost myself in someone else's shadow. Coming back wasn't about dance. It was about remembering that I existed, that I mattered, that my dreams were worth pursuing. Any message for young women watching? Another reporter asked. I looked directly into the camera. Never make yourself smaller to fit into someone else's life. The right person will want you to grow, not shrink. And if you've already lost yourself, it's never too late to come home to who you are. That night, I celebrated with friends, Elena, Marcus, my dance company, Lydia Stanley, who'd become an unexpected ally and friend. As I looked around the restaurant at people who truly saw me, who celebrated my success, who wanted nothing from me but my happiness, I realized something profound. Edwin hadn't taken everything when he broke my heart. He'd inadvertently given me a gift, the chance to rebuild myself stronger, wiser, freer. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I watched tonight. You were magnificent. I'm sorry I couldn't see it before. I hope you soar, Sharon. You deserve the world. I deleted it without responding. That chapter was closed. Marcus returned with champagne, pressing a glass into my hand. To new beginnings? I clinked my glass against his, looking out at the Rosario City skyline glittering with possibility. No, I said, smiling. To becoming who I always was. The phoenix had risen. And this time, nothing would clip her wings again.